This is the Groove Guru podcast. My name is Windsor, and my guest today is Dylan Howe. And Dylan's best known for leading his jazz groups since 2002 and his tenures with Dury The Blockheads, his father Steve Howe of Yes, and Wilko Johnson, all coupled with extensive pop and rock session work since 1990. Along the way, you've amassed many recording credits as a sideman with a plethora of renowned artists and bands, and you've created many albums as a leader with your SUBTERRANEAN new designs on Bowie's Berlin, gaining much acclaim and favourable praise from David Bowie himself. And Dylan, thanks for being here today. And
yeah, of course, it's a pleasure.
The podcast.
Thank you.
Cool. And yeah, Dylan, I first saw, heard and met you when we recently toured a few years ago on the same bill. You know, I was playing with Hugh Cornwell, who you've also played with, and maybe we can get into that a little bit. And you were with Wilko Johnson along with Norman Watt-Roy, and I loved the vibe of what you guys brought to those shows and the stage each night. And we were also, I think it was a festival last year in the UK, Kubix, that we were on the same bill. We didn't manage to catch up then, but hey, great to reconnect today.
Hello. Yeah, cool. That's good. Yeah, so
all good. yeah. So I mean, I think, you know, for us both as players, you know, after the whole Corona situation, you know, it put live music on hold for a lot of musicians. And you know, how are you finding being out playing again these days?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Yeah, you kind of I mean, I'm still kind of adopting the same approach that I kind of caution space, not getting near anybody, and just kind of making sure that I'm not I'm still pretty careful. I'm still think it's kind of an issue, but yeah, I mean, I think, you know, for everybody it was really weird, wasn't it, having everything kind of stop and then regrouping and then kind of starting again, but in kind of trickles, and then it would sort of stop a little bit, and then, you know, so it feels a bit more like it's going to be a bit more uninterrupted, I think, now. But it just sort of shows you maybe like the live thing or music or the arts in general it's not particularly valued by a lot of people, but I think, you know, they appreciate it when it's back, but it's sort of, you know, makes you think of things really. Everything got a kind of, you know, shift of perspective, didn't it, really? You know, so but yeah, I mean, it's really good to be out there again, as we have been recently, you know, and everyone's all right, so we kind of got this far, you know.
And that, you know, after the 18 months or however long it was, and starting to like do shows again for the first time in over a year, it was like, how do we do this again, you know?
I know
it was back up and kind running. And
I mean, I suppose, how do you feel? Do you feel okay kind of going into venues and like you know, being around everybody and traveling and stuff? Is that you feel right?
I feel fine with that. You know, like when I'm doing things with Hugh, etc., you know, it's kind of well-oiled machine. We usually travel together, and it's kind of a set routine. You know, if we're doing a tour, you know, there's a certain order of things: get to the place, sound check, blah blah blah. By the time that's all done, okay, get something to eat, chill before the show, warm up, do the show, blah blah blah, repeat, and it's cool, and I just love getting into that, the flow of it, you know, when you've been playing with an act. And again, I don't want to keep talking about me. I'd love to hear your perspective as well, but that you know, when you get to the point of, you know, playing the same set of songs so that you're so familiar with it that you're just so in the moment, and it just flies by, like the perception of time thing, that we could be playing for like 2-hour sets or something, and it's like they're like 5 minutes each. It's like, how did that happen?
It's funny, isn't it, how that can be, you know, every night it can feel different, or when I suppose when you feel like you're playing parts, set parts kind of often in a lot of the songs, and then there's sections of the songs that are more kind of open-ended or sort of improvised. So yeah, it's just sort of it is interesting how it can feel quite different sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
cool. And so Dylan, I'd love to hear about your journey, like your background as a musician from when you started with music to where you are today. And so first off, I imagine that with your dad being in, no less than the prog band Yes, that it meant that you would be surrounded with music from a very young age.
It definitely was. Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
It just felt really like a natural thing. Really, it wasn't unusual. So all of the reference points that I had were just very immediate, and they were kind of there from an early age. And so seeing other people kind of on a stage, or the kind of traveling, and sort of the kind of slightly itinerant lifestyle and all that was seen to. I mean, I ever since I was young, I'd really like to be in studios. I thought they were quite cozy. I could curl up somewhere, or it was like a kind of like a spaceship, almost. So I just felt really, really at home in those situations, I suppose. And then my dad had a drum kit in his studio upstairs in the house, and I started to mess around on that when I was, I don't know, maybe 8 or something, 8 or 9. And we would sometimes play together a bit. And then I got into school bands, in school, and we were playing like, after school and school hall and stuff. And so that it was just an immediate thing. And there wasn't really any other thing that I wanted to do or could imagine myself doing. So kind of school was a bit of a formality, really. I couldn't wait to leave, and just get into bands and get into at that time I was still kind of under the impression, as a lot of people are in school, that you would like join a band and they were your friends and you'd go through it together and you do all that kind of thing. So, but after a while, I started to realize that's a kind of fantasy, really. So I thought I should get good at kind of lots of styles and not just kind of like one thing. And then it was really a big sort of, I suppose the things that changed me quite a lot were getting into, I suppose just sort of the first time I got into black music, really into like Stevie Wonder, into Motown, into funk and everything. Then I kind of realized, wow, there's this sort of there's a massive difference between the feel, the sound of all the drummers that I'm seeing in England, and then all of the like Americans. So it was a shift, into understanding, starting to get into the history of the drums and also of all the good music, really. So I stopped being so into sort of early 80s pop, which I was the right age for that. And then suddenly it was like, okay, now how do I find my way into jazz, work my way backwards and stuff to everybody, and then all the drummers and that, and then but another turning point, I suppose, was kind of working out. I started to see on lots of, say, the same musicians were appearing on like Stevie Wonder records and like David Bowie records and like other people's albums. And then I started to hear about this thing called like a kind of studio group, like a kind of house band. And I thought, wow, so you would have to be really good to be able to be in this band that just sort of lives in a studio somewhere. And you're on like lots of people's records. And so I started to kind of try and investigate who all these people were and like why was it so good and the chemistry thing, and then understanding, just sort of that was the beginning of that whole thing of trying to get good and get serious, I suppose.
Awesome. And who are some more of those key players that really inspired you along the way? Because like when you get the house bands, like I'm thinking like the Motown guys,
Muscle Shoals and Stax, and basically all of them really, and then they and I suppose seeing who was on all of the Steely Dan records and stuff, then working out why and how they got through the kind of, you know, the sieve of Donald Fagen's sort of very strict sieve, you know.
Yeah.
And so just trying to kind of, I mean, it's, you know, it's like all those people that everybody always cites, really, and they're generally, you know, Americans of a certain era from the 50s to the 70s and stuff. And that was a real thing of kind of, you know, trying to understand that, because I suppose sometimes I think about it, when I was young and I'd see like Yes play or someone, I'd see, especially if it was with you know, Bill Bruford or something, then it was a lot more like the drums were an expressive thing, and it was a lot more like a kind of equal role. But then I started to realize that actually that's not really what anybody wants. So you had to have these kind of phases that or kind of switches that you can switch into. So understanding what it means to be like a session drummer versus a kind of instrumentalist artist, you know, those two things are really very far apart. So trying not to get too lost in either side, and to kind of, I mean, I suppose the history, the kind of overall, the feeling of my musical life has always been the kind of, you know, commerce versus art in like how I feel about what I'm doing. So it's always been like, well, you've got to earn a living, but I like things that probably aren't going to earn you a living. You know, the kind of music I like, or the kind of things, it's more of a niche thing or specialist thing. So it's finding the joy in the groove, and that is, you know, it's a big subject, and then also kind of understanding how that can transmit into everything that you like. So I was always sort of torn between like the jazz thing and like the groove thing, you know, the sort of stripped down, just like time, and then the kind of expression and soloing and interaction. So you know, there's some things there to think about.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot to unpack there. You know, having that awareness of context. You know, working as a session musician, it's like, okay, what's required for that scenario versus that one and that one and that one, and that's it. I think what would be awesome would be, you know, so as your, you know, career has progressed as a sideman and a leader, you know, what are, you know, some of those key lessons that you've
that's a good question.
That's really shaped you and as a drummer, you know, maybe human, and maybe you could reference those alongside some of the gigs you've done.
I think that, like, you know, when I started to, well, it's a lot. It's like the first time you play with the click track, and you're like, well, what the hell's going on? No one prepared me for this, you know. And then you kind of understand, you know, that it's an ally and stuff, and it, you know, keeps things sort of honest, and there's so much sort of, there's like in time, and there's like, you can't hear the click in time, or you feel so good you aren't aware of anything that is there, or that, and that can happen just in a room with a bunch of people, and so what am I trying to say? I don't know, really, just sort of I suppose, you know, the things that I've done that I felt frustrated, you know, maybe, or just like it was too I don't know, it's difficult because you've got to like the music, but you've got to make the right decisions, or you've got to, and then there's a whole element of kind of showbiz, which I really hate, and then there's a whole kind of element of like musicians with other musicians that I don't like. So it's a difficult, I don't know what I would say to myself if I was young. I don't know if I would listen anyway. But I think it's like
that last bit, you don't know if you'd listen. I lost you there.
To myself. if I told myself now, you know, I don't know if I'd taken notice, but I think that it's just like, maybe the best way to put it is that when you're enjoying it, or when you love it, you're not really analyzing so much, or when you start out, it's a bit like all that stuff isn't there, and so you kind of so there's just a kind of pure joy thing going on, but then as you kind of progress through kind of more of a professional prism and interactions and criticisms, or really like understanding what it is to kind of lock a band together and to kind of make everyone else feel secure and not to, you know, to go off somewhere. So I think I'm going on to a weird tangent, so you might have to find the question again. Sorry,
no. It's interesting that you know, why we start with music. It is that the joy of it, and there is that fun, and yes, balancing it with the understanding of, you know, what's right for this situation, and then there's a real joy I find that can come when, you know, after you're in the context, you've kind of picked apart what it is that you want to do, and you've kind of figured it out, and then you get to the point that then it's like you've done all the thinking, and then you can just play it, and then it's just fun again.
Well, that's it. That's what it always should be, isn't it? Really, and I think often it can be that, and even after you've been doing it for, you know, years and years and stuff, it's like I think it's if you can still find a lot to love about it, and the right people to be around, you know, most of the time to do it with, then it's, you know, it's a great thing, isn't it? And I mean, I found it was interesting because of the lockdown thing. I thought, well, it was a good opportunity really to practice and to kind of see what I needed to do, really. So I kind of like it was pretty good for me. I didn't really like it didn't really kind of change my world that much, because I've been getting into this thing of practicing a lot. I like to be at home and I kind of do these tours in these blocks and stuff, and then I come back and then I found that I changed my grip on my left hand like a lot, and it is sort of it's been really good actually, because I would always, like, I was taught like this sort of Moella thing from Bob Armstrong, and it was all this sort of, you know, that sort of stuff, and drop and but actually I think that was wrong, you know.
All right.
I think it's interesting because, like, I wanted to play like this really, and this, I think this thing, so I think the drums are designed that you play traditional grip really, and because that would be too much of a kind of leap to relearn from like match grip into that. But I saw, like, if you see Bill Stewart, he has a way, so he's got two things that he's doing, which I was thinking, okay, so how is he getting such a good sound all the time, and such a great sort of application with his hand, and then so first I could see that he was doing this thing with his right hand where he was sort of gripping inside the stick, and it would make a kind of click kind of sound. So I started investigating that, and that is actually, it's really good. You can get it if you just slightly turn the stick and close your fingers around it, and there's a little kind of air pocket, and it kind of goes top 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 top, which is great. And then I was thinking, okay, but left hand, like this like Moella thing, man, I just at this sort of a wall, like I can't get everything I want out of the left hand. It's just not strong enough, it's not clear enough. It's like, so I flipped it like the right hand, so I'm thumb down,
Right.
And then everything, so it's like an intermediary step in between like trad, grip, but you're like thumb down, and suddenly it's like bang, everything is like, it's really defined, much stronger, and it's about that and this and the drop and the and like the rebound. I would recommend it. Anybody that is like stuck in match grip and is thinking, why can't I do the things I want to do?
Yeah.
You know?
So that's more like a kind of French grip approach, like from there.
What it's called?
There. Yeah, because it's like there's like the German. We'll grab some. Let's grab our sticks, right?
Yeah, go on.
Ta-da! Let's see if you can see. Yeah, I mean that standard wave, which is a great starting point. If you relax your shoulders, bring your arms up, naturally the hand is in that position.
So it's in that, just like the palm is flat thing. The fingers,
So so that kind of naturally happens. There's the kind of triangle vibe, and that's like, I call that like the home position. Like it's a good place to,
well, I used to call that home. I left home, man. I've changed my home now. I'm like in a different house than this one. I would recommend.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. And it's like a starting point.
So the French group is that. Is
that
what,
so like German,
Keith
French.
Carlock was using something like that or something, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's into a lot of that. So I mean, they would like, to get really geeky. It's like there was like German, which is like back of the hand facing up. French, you could say like timpani grip with the thumbs up, and then
maybe
like
that's what I'm doing.
It can be like a hybrid, like American one, which is like halfway in between, and there's here and there's there, and it's interesting to experiment. But but interesting you mentioned Bill Stewart. I mean, there's a jazz club in Surrey, Dorking, Watermill.
Oh yeah,
he was there, wasn't he? He was, and it was like, oh wow, Bill Stewart's playing it. So
I know.
Let's check that out.
The last time he was there, they were asking around for other drummers to lend him a snare drum. So I lent him one of my snare drums and came down there, but he tuned it up to like, I thought he was going to break it, man. It was like
was it like a Brass Ludwig one?
Yeah.
I remember it. Yeah, it was like, that's cranked.
It was like, how are you going to get any kind of buzz out of that? It's so dry. It's like tink, but he still sounds great. I mean, he's amazing. But yeah, so I suppose seeing that and sort of, but I tell you what, it took ages, man, to like try and get it anywhere near usable. At first it was like, oh no, I'm like completely but it's coming. It's good. It's getting there now. I bet it's taken about 3 years, do. You're thinking, oh my god, I'm doing this again.
That repetition.
It's like, oh wow, but it's good. It's I'd say it's worth it.
Yeah, cool. And that's it. Was really interesting. The thing that I noticed about Bill Stewart on that night is that wow, he's got so much subtlety and nuance in his playing, great feel, and whereas it's like when I've experimented with traditional grip, I mean, I played match grip the vast majority of the time. But whenever I play traditional, it's like there's that fundamentally different feeling in each hand. So it's not like two the same. It's like two different things.
I just think that there's something about the rebound. If you play trad grip, it's just it's much more natural and it just naturally, like your hand is like a claw that can just sort of sit on the shell, kind of, whereas with like the match thing, it's the anyway, I'm just into that right now.
It's cool. It's like that, and continuing the geekery for a bit, it's all good. It's like with the traditional grip, I love how it's like the hands underneath the stick, whereas with the match grip it's like over, but when you flip it that way, it's almost like that trad thing where you've got that sense of lightness. And the thing I loved about Bill Stewart was, I found it fascinating to watch and hear, was that both of his hands were like different positions. It's not like they were both flat or both that, they were both just slightly different for the feel.
No, he's a master. He's like I've been like following him for so long, and kind of it's just great. It's just he's like he's kind of taken the best of Roy Haynes and Tony Williams and kind of sucked them together into a thing which is a bit which has like a slightly kind of like a kind of funk element as well. So
yeah, it sure grooved.
He's a killer.
Yeah, amazing. Oh, good. So Ian Dury the Blockheads. You know, I loved hearing you play with those guys and Wilko, and we can talk about that. And so Ian Dury the Blockheads, how did that one come up for you?
I did some sessions with Chaz before. There were like two avenues at the same time. It was like a few years before Chaz called me out to do some sessions. Not sure how he got my number. I can't remember. And then, but also I'd worked with Davey Payne with Chris Jagger, and then so like it was almost like a couple of people said, why don't we try Dylan or something, and then I was on the TV at that time in this afternoon house band show called Light Lunch, and so it was like easy for them to like switch on the TV and see me, sort of thing. So those three things kind of happened, and then they sort of went, oh yeah, he sounds all right or something, and then so I just got a phone call out of the blue, and I was like, oh yeah, you joined the Blockheads, I remember them, and then he said, well, we've got like a couple of days rehearsal, and then there's a gig like next week in a castle in Nottingham or something, and so it was a very quick kind of thing. I just sort of did these little charts of all the songs and stuff, and didn't really have a lot of the chance to practice them. But it was like then it was it was much more. Everything was much more hectic then, I suppose. So we just sort of got together and had like one afternoon or two or something, and then Ian was in the back who just went, sounding good. So off we went, really. And then I just thought I was just doing the one gig, really, because Stephen Monty, he was away and he double booked himself or something for one show, and then they said, oh, do you want to do some more? And I said and actually they were not long after that we went to Dubai. That was one of the first time I went there, and cool. So that was a thing, really, because it was pretty interesting because it was links a little bit to what I was saying earlier on. It was that here's a band which are kind of like really into jazz but also like really into the studio players and really into funk, and then and they've been like hired as a kind of entity of their own to play on other people's records and stuff. So they were like the Wrecking Crew or like kind of like Marshall Shoals band, but of like West London or something. So I thought, wow, I'm honored. It was great, and I'm just going to learn from these guys and stuff. And as with everybody from that era, they have some great stories, and I was wondering. It's a lot about the hang, isn't it? Really, it's a lot about that,
And very cool. And so you were on like and again, because some musicians I speak with, they talk about how do you get those kind of gigs. So just to recap, it was a TV show that you were on, so you were like playing and you were visible type thing.
I was on this thing every day, 5 days a week at like lunchtime Channel 4 show, and it was live, and so we were a live house band. So I mean that in itself was at first it's pretty sort of hair raising, you think oh my god, so you get used to that and you start to settle in. So it was good because we do little stings and then we play along with people, but it so that all these gigs, like it's essentially kind of who and if somebody else says your name as well, then you're in with half a chance, because it's a couple of people are kind of, oh yeah, I've heard of him or something, but that doesn't matter anything until you get there. So it's all about just what it feels like in the room anyway, and then obviously you've got to have a lot of the music there down or feel good with it or something. But I don't know, I think those sort of guys which are like when like other musicians are hiring you. It's completely different to when, like, you know, a management or a record company or a kind of star is there, because they don't know anything about. I mean, it's just like, it's just another, you know, it's something else. It's a different thing. So like, yeah, that was a combination, and it helped that I'd done a few things for some of the other people individually that were in the group and stuff. So I don't know. It's all luck, isn't it? Really, it's all crazy.
It's interesting random. How it comes about.
All, you know,
very cool.
It's all crazy.
Yeah. And again, it's like, you know, you joining that band again, a very rock and roll band. And I remember hearing, I think it was an interview, I think it was with Wilko Johnson, who was saying that you were kind of the young one in that lineup. And again, coming back to what you're saying about the stories, like, because a lot of those guys had a lot of rock and roll miles on the tires.
It was different back then. It's just that, I mean, I'm sure there was still an element of that in other areas, but this was a bit more like it's a band, and everyone's kind of, you know, together, and it's a certain age thing, and there's a drug thing going on, and there's a kind of hangout, and then there's it's very different to other things, isn't it?
Yeah, and
you know, I'm sure you find that with Hugh and stuff. I mean, it's very much like,
oh yeah, we do loads of drugs.
He's of that vintage. He's of that vintage, and he's seen all those things, and he's got his you know, so that sort of era of, like, you know, the English sort of new wave era, coupled with kind of all of the influences that were coming over the water. It was a good one, I thought. Yeah. It was interesting to couple that together.
Yeah, awesome. And any memorable kind of like fun stories that really stand out as, that was a cool experience?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of them, aren't there, really? I mean, they always seem to have some story about having to take Ian's leg off or something because he was so drunk and causing a lot of trouble and stuff, and they had to carry him upstairs and then sort of lock him in his room, and then he's like screaming at all of them, saying, "You're all fired," and stuff, and they'd be like, "No, we're not." You know, it's like many of those, because, you know, he was quite hard to handle sometimes, and all of them got into various scrapes, you know. So I mean, I liked it because I was like 26 or something then, and like the Yes experience was so kind of it was so kind of private, or it was so different, and it, you know, it wasn't about funk and like jazz and stuff. It was a different thing, and then like the kind of all the gigs I've been doing before then were kind of soul based gigs or house band gigs and stuff, and then starting to get to jazz things, but I kind of hadn't rubbed shoulders with those guys yet, and it was really funny. It was great, you know, and it still is, you know, it's still got a lot of those elements, you know.
Very cool, awesome, and cool. So, you know, Ian, Dury The Blockheads, and kind of, you know, segueing a little bit, you've got like Wilko Johnson, you know, who I first saw you playing with, and there was a really cool record that really enjoyed, is the Going Back Home one, which was like, you know, with Roger Daltrey and Norman Watroy. What was the process of that record creating? Like, how did that come about?
It was weird, because well, I mean, I've been playing with Wilk then for a few years. It was, funnily enough, it was the same drummer. It was Stephen Monty. Couldn't do some gigs again, but with Wilko. So like RCVs are like almost identical. And then like, so what? I don't know how this thing happened. Yeah, so Wilko, he knew Roger a bit or something, and then finally my mind's gone a bit blank about how this got. I think he thought he was going to, so he had the cancer, he thought he was going to die. It was like the sort of farewell tour thing, and then I don't know who said this to who or something, or how they, I think they met somewhere at like an award show or something, as they do, and then he sort of said, "Oh, we should do something together," and then Wilko went, yeah, great. And then it was trying to get hold of him to follow up on that, and then thinking, oh, he's just saying it, sort of thing. And then somehow it kind of started to happen, and then we got like Universal were interested in fronting not a great deal of money, I have to say at first. We were staying in some tiny little hotel, but then it sort of started to change a little, and it was a quick process, and I can't say it was the most relaxed process of my life, because some people get a bit nervous. Well, anyway, we basically did it quickly, right. Sort of separately. The three of us, and then Roger would kind of come in. He would listen to us, and then he would do it afterwards and stuff. And
right.
And we were like, just come on, just just do it with us. But he's got his own way of working and stuff, and so we did that in about, well, we did our tracks in I think eight or 9 days or something, and then we did all the stuff, and then nobody knows what's going to happen, and just another album, and it's just going to disappear into nothing, sort of thing. But it didn't, and then it caught fire quite a lot, and then we did some gigs and together, and it was it was one of those really like unbelievably random occurrences where something just sort of happens and that no one expected. Like I think Universal were like, it was a bit like the Blue Note thing when Sidewinder came out, when they hadn't pressed enough, so they're like, we haven't got enough copies, what are we going to do? It was like that. It was like, wow. There was a panic to get them printed up and stuff in time, to meet. It just sounds nuts, really, isn't it? So that was such a good lift, for Wilk, and especially as he thought it was the end. So it was a great way to go out, and then it's not the end, and then he survives, and he's still alive, and he's going strong, kind of thing. So absolutely, so isn't it funny? You can't really tell anything, and it it was interesting seeing the kind of the mechanism that surrounds the Who and all of that. It was quite an eye-opening thing. So just sort of one of those crazy things that happens,
Yeah, cool. And just realizing everyone's got their own processes, the way that they work, and just this embracing that, and that I think, again, really cool record. I do quite enjoy that one, and like with Wilko, such a great like story, a very happy ending with that, and quite inspiring, and those tunes, like seeing you guys live, some of the tunes from that record you still do, and we do, which brings to the like you playing with Wilko and Norman. It's just some of the most fun like shows that I've seen, because it's like you're all proper into it, like Norman is like having every single note, and there's a lot of movement going on. And when it comes to actually playing that, it's like when playing that, the kind of rock and roll vibe, and there's a lot of push and pull happening in the live thing. It's like, how do you kind of best navigate that as a drummer, when there's a lot of movement?
I just try and like drive the truck down the middle of the road and try and sort of ignore, or kind of, it's all about you're kind of aware of any adjustments do have to be a kind of like micro adjustments, but you've got to be kind of like, I play to Wilko really, and Norm is kind of doing his thing, and so I just kind of, it's like I'm just trying to drive it down the middle of the road, really, and the best I can. That's all I can say, really. It's
an interesting one, because it's like you can practice on your own with a click and get it all spot on, but then it's like it's not that perfect when actual playing it, and it's it's like when playing with Hugh and Pat, there can be a bit of movement, so it's just finding, okay, where do we make it set that it feels best.
I think it's understanding, like, that probably you have to take control of it, but not in an aggressive way, but just in a very kind of like, okay, like here it is, and I'm not going to be too phased if I can by anybody else, you know. It's I mean, other gigs are just so not like that it's you just have to get used to certain idiosyncrasies of other people, don't you? And if you can navigate that and stay there, then that's good, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, you know, just being secure in what you do, and you know, just open to feedback as well, and just seeing that, you know, those situations, it's, you know, it's not judging, it is what it is, and it's like, how do I best navigate that? And the amount of growth that can come from that, it can really be something that adds up, and it's like, wow, that's a whole new dimension of playing that's came about. It's fun, man. So one other thing that we've got in common, you know, apart from our ravishingly good looks, you know, is that, you know, we've both worked with Hugh Cornwell, and again, just if anyone's not heard, you know, he's frontman, singer, songwriter, guitarist of the original Stranglers, and very accomplished solo artist in his own right. And when I was speaking with Hugh a few weeks ago, you know, we were rehearsing, and I said we were going to have this conversation. One thing he said was, Dylan and I, we worked on a version of No More Heroes together.
Oh, and
I'd love to hear about that.
That's the first time I heard of. Because they were redoing the soundtrack to Absolutely Fabulous or something. They were so they were going to do that. So I just got a call from Laurie Latham, who had produced quite a lot of the Blockheads albums, and then went down. Hugh, it was a funny session, because it was just Hugh and me, and we just did it together. And I don't know if he added bass afterwards or something, but it was just a sort of thing, and it just seemed to feel easy to do, and it was nice. It was in Jules Holland's studio, Helicon Studios, and that's a nice place to go and stuff. And you know, so it was a random. I didn't know if we'd even met or something, but and I think he called me up, and I was like, "Oh, right, hello," you know. So it was good, you know. And then I asked him to do a track when I played this sort of early version of the Subterraneans group that I was doing, like the Bowie thing, and he sang what was it, Summer, at Cargo, and so he's
is it London Jazz Festival, I think,
he's a good guy. Yeah,
absolutely. No, awesome. So very cool. And I leads on nicely. It's like you've got you've been doing a lot of projects as a leader, and
over the years, definitely.
Very cool. And like, you know, again, that a big highlight of that being the Subterraneans Bowie record, which I was checking out some of that. You know, is it in 11 or 7? And but some lovely textures. And so I'd love to know, what's the process of bringing those projects to fruition like for you? Where does it start? Just some kind of concept, or what's your process with that? Bringing it to the stage.
I don't know, that one was like I just had this sort of, you know, I wanted to do something else apart from the kind of Blue Note quintet thing, and wanted to do something that was slightly different to that. So I thought, you know, it'd be good to kind of adapt some of the music that I liked when I was younger. And then I thought, well, maybe like the instrumental Bowie stuff on Low and Heroes is so kind of open to something, because it's simple and it's sort of open-ended, and but it's quite kind of dramatic in a way, and sort of eerie and lonely sounding. And so I thought, that it could work. So I kind of tried it with a few, you know, over the years, and a few different things. I take a few more songs and try and adapt them. And then I think I'd done some recording, you know, in like spots, and then I added to it, and then I overdubbed and all kinds of things. And yeah, so it just kind of, there was enough for an album, and then it just seemed to, and then it was funny because I was like, it's to do like an album, it's such a, takes a lot of energy and you know, a lot of planning, and then you think, oh, I'm going to promote it now, but luckily everything seemed to kind of come together, and it kind of had this momentum, and so a lot of people got on board with it, and then like I got, you know, like a message from Bowie saying that he liked it, and that, you know, kind of helped to have a kind of seal of approval thing. And then we did a couple of tours, and then we got, you know, we kind of ramped up in scale and stuff, and sold quite a few records. And so it was a rarity for a jazz thing to cross over in a kind of good way like that. And I'm kind of glad that it didn't happen, you know, because it seemed like when he died, like everyone started doing things. Oh, I've got a Bowie record. Oh, you know, like, okay. There wasn't anything. I mean, it took so long to do anyway. So, I was really glad that it kind of came together, and it was good actually. I enjoyed it. Overall. Awesome. I mean, running a band is not a thing I would recommend to anyone faint of heart, but or that's, you know, that is a sensitive person. You don't want to run a band, but I think for that thing it was definitely worth it. It was good.
Very cool. Happy to hear. And and glad when things come together that way. And it's some beautiful music for anyone who's not checked that recording out. Subterranean, I'll put a link to that in the show notes. And and when it comes to like you as a musician, because obviously we've spoken about the session thing and then the doing your own thing, it's like when you've been creating your own projects, you know, what's your take on, you know, creating and finding your unique voice as a musician? Is that something you consider?
Well, that's something that you hope is sort of always there, you know, growing inside you. You know, I mean, there aren't many unique voices, are there? I mean, lots of people sound like other people, and you can hear that, and that's great in itself, isn't it? I mean, sort of innovators, there aren't many, but they are always the people that I draw on and I like the best. You know, I mean, maybe, you know, Bill Stewart has a unique voice. You know, I can always hear when he's on a record. You know, straight away I can tell it's him, kind of thing. So, I mean, I don't think maybe in the future that might happen to me, but I mean, all of us are just trying to get to a point where we feel. I think it's just, you got to feel like really comfortable and doing everything a lot all the time, and so you can switch off the interference that is always in your head as you play, kind of thing, and just trying to find a way to just sort of not have any sort of introspection all the time. So I think that's, you know, good luck to all of us for, you know, to try and do that. You know, but there is a lot to take care of as you're doing it. So I think if you can get to that point, which sometimes, you know, I can get to, that I feel like I'm just there, and I'm not aware of anything, but it is happening, and then you're just in the moment. That's kind of the point of isn't it? You know,
it's like it becomes like a meditation, because I think that's a key one. You know, like, you know, putting as much attention and focus on the music as we do, and we really care about it. You know, it can be a lot to take on, and it's like, okay, so the mental health aspect of it, the calmness and the clarity when playing, you know, like that's something that I've been fascinated by, that like just to be able to play and it just flows through and you're not thinking of anything. It was that thing about the perception of time, like with playing for an hour, and it's like it flies by in 5 minutes, and that, and it's context specific. That one of the things that I love, it's playing some of the same songs which are like very part based, like you don't change the drum part because that's like changing the guitar riff, to the point that you've played it so much that you don't have to think. It's like that level of unconscious competence. You can do it without thinking about it, and then it's like like the meditation in a way that's so practical, because it's like often looking into meditation and things like that, just sitting and you're not really doing anything. But when you actually find the state of meditation, not the practice of sitting in the lotus position, but that simple calmness, it's like the most practical thing. It's like to become a better listener. I've found when I'm not focusing on personal thinking, and I've done all that I can do to not have to think about details of arrangements, then it's like I'm just listening, and that it helps. It's like when playing live, it just you hear everyone else, and you can just find that space just to help things sit.
I mean, that sounds that's when it's a good one, isn't it? Definitely, when it feels really good,
and here's to more of that. And
definitely,
one cool thing is I was checking out some of your playing last night. It was a cool Dury Blockheads gig at the Ronnie Scott's, and you were
I remember that. Into
it.
That showed it on TV.
You were beaming. It was great to see. And
it was probably nerves.
All right,
fear. Well, it was a look of fear rather than smiling, probably.
But
I'm being filmed. No.
But it's sounding great, man. And
thank you.
There was a cool one that in that the movie Dury was talking about, that when fame and limelight comes, it's an interesting thing, and he was finding it's really key to find that to hold on to within you, that you're doing okay, whatever that is, like self-belief or whatever keeps you grounded. And I was wondering, it's like, what is it for you that keeps you going strong in all your work, regardless of the level of perceived success or whatever names you might work with?
It's really difficult, isn't it? I mean, I definitely feel it's always there's always an inner battle going on, I feel like, and I think I never feel like I don't know, it's it, and there when I'm not like having a go at myself about my playing, I kind of, it's a good day. It's not that I'm doing it much, but I just want to kind of I think self-belief, it's just like it's different for everybody, isn't it? I mean, it's very, because what we do is so precarious, and it's kind of, it's like, it's good when you don't have to rely on getting like a compliment, or having somebody else say something to you to validate everything you do. So it's important huge. I mean, I think the way I kind of do that is that I kind of I practice every day, or 5 days a week, and then I give my arms a bit of rest, and just kind of, I mean, like it isn't about how long you practice for, but it's like how you do it, and just instilling all the fundamentals all the time, and feeling like you're always kind of match fit. And I mean, I don't think there are any sort of easy answers to staying kind of positive, or having self-belief, because it's very easy to be to be disconcerted. In the music business, is like an unregulated kind of Shark Tank, that it's very kind of, it's difficult, it's like all these people that you think are your friends, it's just a phase, it's a thing, it's a band, it's a gig, it's a session, it's a thing. And so it's a transient kind of like kind of kaleidoscope of experiences that it's very hard to know what's a kind of genuine thing. So I suppose you just got to like trust your instinct and your gut, and your feeling that do I feel good in this? Do I feel right? Is this something? How does this situation make me feel? And if you're getting something positive back, it's undeniable that you must be doing something right. So I think it's like that kind of thing. It's like no one has the same thing to you, because if you step into a room and you get a feeling and you feel like there's a warm, there's a good feeling, there's a then you're doing something right. And generally, you know, if nobody's saying anything to you, you're doing it right. You know what I mean?
Silence means it's okay.
All those times that everyone goes, oh, you know, I see, was that all right? Or, you know, did I? It's like, don't ask, because you're sure going to be told if it's not right. You will be told, and so it's that kind of feeling of like, just like, and I think what's helped me is just to be kind of, it's that it really isn't about you anyway. It's about the whole thing. It isn't about, look at me on the drums, look at this groove, or look at that, I did a great fill, then I'm doing something. It's like nobody gives a shit, and they don't want to know anything about that. All they want is for you to drive the car steadily down the middle of the road, and they can just do their stuff at the same time. They don't even want to, you know, think about you. And if you're doing that and they're not really saying anything to you, and they're not like glaring at you, then you're probably doing it okay. And then so then you can start to build on that, really, I suppose, you know. But it's very hard. The thing I would just say quickly is that the thing that I've learned is, you know, it's that balancing adrenaline with kind of compensation with sort of your own emotional state, and understanding how everything works at the same time with other people in a live situation or a studio thing. It isn't a piece of cake, is it? I mean everyone has got their own way of doing it.
You know, and that on that one, you know, that just being a huge game-changing insight, realizing about, you know, the song being king, so to speak, that it's not just about look at my drum fills, because nobody wants that, you know, because it's like with pop gigs, you know, if people go to see, they want to see the song and the singer and the story, and they don't know what you're playing. And but just as a musician, just realizing that what can I do to make the song or the context work great is key. And one other thing that you said there, I think it was great, is that, you know, especially in a kind of showbiz thing, and even in like social media, when, you know, people are giving likes, it's easy to like you know, it's almost like outsourcing your like, if you're depending on other people's for your self-esteem, then I call that, it's like external, having an external reference point for your self-esteem, which, you know, when people are praising you, yay, but if people are giving criticism, then it can go up and down. And one of the things I find useful with that is genuinely having self-esteem from an internal validated point, like just noticing the things that you do that are working well. And obviously you can, it's even listening to rehearsals and saying, oh wow, that's sitting pretty well done, and then it's like learning to lift myself up, not to the point of like, oh look at me, but just, oh, I've earned that, cool. And then obviously at the same time looking at, okay, how can I do to improve and take things just to the next level,
consistent,
you know?
all the time. It's so, and to not always think I've got to top that, or I've got to I've done that good, okay, but now I'm going to add something to it, or I'm going to make it. It's just like just to be consistent, and to be kind of like, you know, in that, just and generally playing as little as possible is generally all that's needed, really. So trying to be, you know, economical,
absolutely,
you know, it's a thing. I don't know, it's a big subject, but I think you just got to kind of try and find a way to enjoy it, but in a realistic way, I suppose, you know.
Absolutely. That's some great points. Amazing. So a couple of cool questions. With you, what are you listening to, or what lights you up these days mostly, with music and live and things?
Well, I tell you what, it's been funny. I got into I don't know if you saw Herbie Hancock at Glastonbury on the TV. Did you see that?
a few bits of it, not the whole thing. Yeah, I might
Did
go
you
and
see
check
that drama? That drama was unbelievable. Yeah, so I kind of started to listen to that tune, Actual Proof. Do you know that one? With Mike Clark and stuff.
Yeah, Mike Clark, 1974.
Yeah,
oh, so good.
I remember like kind of thinking, oh, I don't know about Mike Clark. It's all a bit confusing. I didn't, but now I'm a bit older and I can kind of understand it a bit more. And so I started to kind of get into that. I mean, every week's a different kind of like, you know, a different album or a different thing. But yeah, so last week it was Thrust, you know, Herbie Hancock.
Yeah, absolutely. Album. That's the one.
And I got the charts for Mike Clark stuff and like the lead sheet and trying to work everything out, and that was good. And then and I've been listening to quite a bit of Chopin, his nocturnes, and yeah, I mean it's just sort of changeable, but generally the jazz, and then sort of much other things really. But working on the grip and Roy Haynes comping and stuff, and
brilliant. Yeah, that's such a great record. One of that whole early 70s Herbie Hancock period, like that Thrust, then the Headhunters as well, and
isn't that one that you know that what are you talking about, the one with Chameleon on it and stuff?
Yes, Harvey Mason on that, isn't it?
Because I got that other one that after Herbie left and they did an album on their own with like Mike Clark and everybody, and it's like really, it's a pretty crazy album. I'm not sure if I can recommend it, but like the first track and the last track are good, and then in the middle it gets a bit. I think there was a lot of dope. You know, I mean, it's just the total understatement of the century. Yeah.
You know, all that. But so many cool sounds on
there's
that.
Some good. I mean, I like. Yeah, some good.
Have you heard Flood? Like with that band, it's I think it's a 1975 live album in Japan. I think.
Is that the one with Hang Up Your Hang-Ups and stuff, or is that a later one?
No, I think Hang Up Your Hang-Ups is probably on it. I need to check the thing. I mean, Hang Up Your Hang-Ups, I think it's a 1976 with a Pharaoh in the front, but the live album, because a lot of them are studio albums, but the Flood is a live album from that period.
I've definitely heard of that record, with Mike Clark on it.
Yes.
It was something I almost avoided because I used to share a flat in Muswell Hill, and like everybody in the flat was obsessed with those records. They were like smoking dope all the time, listening to Thrust, and like, you know, and it kind of made, I was like, okay, well, I can't get with that thing because I was just really not into smoking dope and everything. So I had to kind of try and escape from it. So I went into the jazz and everything. But now I don't live with them. I can listen to it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Uninhibited.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool.
That was so funny, those guys.
Yeah, amazing. And just on that, just to add a couple. So if we call, you know, Herbie Hancock and Thrust as one of those really cool records, what's another two or so that are really cool albums with, you know, great, you know, musical drumming that would be cool
that
for
I've been
people
listening
to check out?
Recently?
Or just ones that just stick out as like, they've really impacted you in a cool way.
All time. Oh, okay. Well, you're right. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I generally just like always say to anybody, like Roy Haynes on Now He Sings, Now He Sobs. It's like, Chick Corea record.
Yes.
It's like, you know, it's just, I don't know, it doesn't get much better than that, essentially. Or like, you know, Tony Williams, like on Four and More, or kind of ESP or something. No, actually, Miles Smiles. That is how I got into Tony Williams, was Miles Smiles.
Is that the one with footsteps on it? Is it on that?
Prince, and
Prince, excuse me,
and like Dolores, and it's like, and it's So those are things which are just like got to have them. You've got to know them. You've got to like study them forever. You know. well, there's just loads of stuff, isn't there? Really, I mean, but it's generally from those eras, isn't it? But
cool.
What else? Yeah, I mean, if I think of anything, or like Elvin on The Real McCoy or something is
McCoy Tyner,
really great. Yeah,
amazing. And yeah, I'm just thinking another great Elvin one I love. You probably know it really well. It's the Wayne Shorter Speak No Evil.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's on like 3 of those, isn't he? And
yes,
and it's really really good.
Juju
Yeah, it's there was such a good chemistry, wasn't there? Of those guys together on those things, and absolutely great. Yeah, completely.
Amazing. Really cool. I think there's some really cool, beautiful references that I think a lot of people will really dig. And
good.
Just before we finish up, are there you've covered a lot of really useful things, and are there
absolutely,
let's see what comes out. Are there any top pieces of advice, that other little ingredients that you might want to add that you want to share with drumming musicians listening to this, that want to uplift them and be all they can be as a drummer?
Well,
what comes to mind?
They all know all the stuff, but turn up on time. Always be tidy.
Yep.
Have your own car, something like that. I don't know, just like sort of that. Sit in the middle of the beat and just sort of let it happen. I don't know. Yeah. Don't play too many crash cymbals. Yeah.
Yep. Good one. Oh, brilliant.
Or like any splash, don't have any splash cymbals, don't have any China cymbals, all those silly things like that. I mean, it was okay in like the sort of 1930s or something, but I think that the fusion guys have got a lot to answer for, really. So because I definitely went down. I saw them in the early 90s, and I just like, what was I thinking? No, you've got to go back. Strip it down. Yeah.
And it's like, what gets you from A to B is not what gets you from B to C.
Yeah.
It's cool just to
explore.
I remember.
I definitely there was a moment that I kind of like, I like sold my Yamaha kit and got rid of all of my splash cymbals, went to the vintage thing and just stayed with vintage drums always. And little 4 drum, just like one rack tom, and just kind of, I suppose that was getting away from the modern sounding drums and stuff, I suppose, as well. And Ludwig's snare drums are the only ones to buy, really.
They make some fine drums for sure.
They make the only snare drums really that are worth it. Who
brilliant
knows? Yeah.
Amazing. So Dylan,
yeah,
where can people find more about you and what you're up to?
Well, I've definitely done a blackout on all social media. I've just had it. I haven't done anything for I think years, actually. I got so disillusioned, oversaturated, sort of tired of hearing about myself, other people, just like, I'm not doing this anymore. So that is something I'm not really available for comment on that one. But I've got a website that was last updated in like 1982 or something, which I'm sure there's lots of. But no, at some point I might return to the open world again with a new thing and a new album and a new thing. But at the moment, I'm kind of a little bit like in my bunker, really, just practicing, doing my thing, writing some stuff, playing with Wilko, and so yeah. I mean, so probably the website.
Yeah,
at some point next year. Yeah. Kind of
the next update.
Hello. Yeah.
Cool. Amazing.
Nice one.
Awesome. Well, Dylan, thank you very much for being here today.
It's a pleasure. Thanks.
Good fun.
asking me. Thank you. Yeah.